what do you make of all this foreign interference stuff that's been coming your way with you and your riding? Where are you at?
Well, look, first of all, I want to thank the support I've been getting from my caucus, my family and friends, and constituent locally. There's a lot of support and love, and I want to thank them for that. Because of the report of unverified, anonymous allegation, I'm subject to, or my team, to a lot of attacks online, and even extend to my constituents. I think that needs to stop. Look, I've been a politician for almost 10 years now, and in terms of my nomination, my elections, everything is properly filed and reported. It's all on public record, and anyone has questions about expense or costs and where they came from, they can go online and find out. I'm a Canadian, nominated by Liberals, registered Liberals in Don Valley North, and elected by Canadians to serve Canadian. I'm just going to focus on my work. There's a lot of work in the riding, and I want to see what Mr. David Johnston make out of it as a special repertoire. So, yeah.
I just got to ask you, has the People's Republic of China played a role in your nomination, your election, since you replaced Mr. Tang?
Look, the answer is no, absolutely not. I represent a very diverse riding. Looking at my supporters, there are leaders from the Iranian community, from Armenian community, South Asian community, whole range of them. I've never been offered, nor would I accept, help from a foreign country or representative from a foreign country. So the answer is absolutely not.
I also got to ask you, but since the reporting of our colleagues, with the opposition and so on, there's been a great groundswell coming up about foreign interference, particularly China. Some mention India, some mention Iran, and so on. What do you make of all this? Because it seemed to sort of start with your case, or your instance.
Well,
I don't want.
I would disagree with that. I think everybody has a different definition and understanding of what foreign interference is. In 2020, when I was the member of the Standing Committee of Ethics, I moved the motion to study election interference, domestic and foreign, right? So I know that it's been around for a long time. It's worthy, the study. That's why I moved the motion. So, I think it's unfortunate that, my name's being mentioned in, again, I reported a unverified, anonymous allegation, right? Like I feel I can't. There's very little I can do to defend myself when I'm fighting, against some allegation that is not coming from a definitive source, right? So it's I think it exists as a parliamentarian. Our number one job is to protect our democratic system, and the process. I'm glad to hear at PROC from either CSIS or ICMP and Commission of Elections Canada that there were no, the interference did not result in it did not dictate or influence the outcome of the 19 and 21 election.
And I just got to ask you about Richmond. Richmond's a long way from Don Valley North. Do you see that in People's Republic of China foreign interference affected the outcomes in those two Richmond ridings, or from your perspective?
When we talk about foreign interference, I hope the conversation doesn't stop just with the Chinese Canadian community, right? Like I think I've spent my entire career to encourage participation of ethnic Canadians to get involved with our political system. And I don't want the study of foreign interference to deter them from going to the polling stations next time, right? Like watching from the treatment I've been getting just because my name was brought up in the thing, I'm sure that a lot of people are having second thoughts, especially if they're from ethnic communities, whether or not to get involved in politics. The democratic system that we have here, we cherish so much, needs the participation of all Canadians, doesn't matter where they came from.
Prime Minister Harper closed the Iranian mission in this country, citing many actions by the Iranian diplomats in this country. Do you think there needs to be some sort of diplomatic squeeze on certain countries?
I wasn't around that time. I can't comment on it.
Okay. I'm just trying to, I don't want to focus necessarily on the PRC,
Sure.
but I guess the other question is, when you're living with a diaspora community, you've got Hong Kongers, you've got mainlanders, you've got Taiwanese folks, and you've got the actions of Beijing, and you've got an activist consulate in Toronto. Is there a tricky line you have to walk as an MP to engage as necessary with the diplomats that affect your community?
Well, first of all,
I don't know. I'm not trying to lead you
no,
places,
no.
but I'm just trying to
get
ask
it, I
a
get it.
sophisticated
I
question.
get it. No, first of all, I was elected to represent all constituents. Like I said, I have a very diverse riding. Yes, Chinese Canadian Reserve makes up the largest ethnic groups in my riding, but there is the Armenians, there's the Persian, and so on and so forth. You know, I think, so that's the first part. And the second part is I spoke with someone who's from Hong Kong, but currently running a Taiwanese senior community center in my riding after this whole news broke. You know what he said to me? He said, "Han, I feel that the Chinese community is being further polarized because of these discussions. We came to Canada for different reasons, but one is there's a common theme is that we're here for rule of law, for democracy, for freedom. And once we become a citizen, we've sworn oaths to be loyal to the crown and to protect and preserve this country as citizens. We want to be seen as we want to be seen as Canadians, who has Chinese heritage, who celebrates Chinese heritage. We don't necessarily feel like we need to, show sides when it comes to foreign geopolitics. Like I think that's very well said. My family came here for a similar reason, and if you ask my dad or my mom, they don't want to be pushed to make a choice whether I am for Hong Kong, for Taiwan, or for China. They're Canadians, and the stuff that they care about are economy, housing affordability, and how do we get out of COVID? How do we recover? And how do we deal with the inflation, the interest rate? These are they're on the top of their minds. Yeah.
What is the message to your constituents going forward about you and where you've ended up in things? Like, what's your message when you're on the doorstep? What's your message to Canadians? Because we're here, but we're all moving forward all the time.
Well, first of all, I want to tell them that my election, my nomination, and everything has followed the rules. It's on public record, and it stands test. Second thing is I want to encourage them and continue to participate and let me hear what their concerns are and participate in the next election. We have too low of a voter turnout. We need everyone to come out and tell us what their priorities are through their ballot. But it's you can't really do that if they are scared or concerned or worried, if they're going to be subject to discrimination, right? So yeah, that's my message.
Do you support a public inquiry into this?
Sorry?
Do you support a public inquiry into everything that's come out in the last few months?
I think that government's or the Prime Minister's decision to have a special repertoire to look into this and make a decision whether a public inquiry is needed, I think it's a very good decision. So, sure, I have my personal best interest. I want the truth to come out, in my defense. But I think it's a good decision. We also have a study at the NCCOP committee, and so I look forward to the decision.
And do you dispute that the?
Just a second. It's getting
sorry.
warm with the coat.
Do you dispute that the Chinese consul helped in your nomination, or do you only dispute that you knew about it?
I just answered this question, but I'll say it one more time. I've never been offered, nor would I accept any help from a foreign nation. I'm a Canadian.
That's different than my question. My question is, did you know that the Chinese consulate in Toronto or the Chinese embassy here or any Chinese proxy was aiding in any way in your nomination?
I speak for myself. I was not aware of any help coming from another representative of another country. Like I said, I was never offered, nor would I accept.
And you weren't aware?
So you're making an assumption that there was
No,
activities
my
of
first
such.
question to you was both. My first question was, do you reject that there was any help from Chinese proxies, Chinese embassy, Chinese consul? And the second part was, were you aware? So are you actually able to say there was no help, or it's just that you weren't aware of
My
it?
my campaign was built by or supported by leaders from all communities. So to say that so my point is I wasn't I was not offered, nor would I accept. I don't know if it's clear to
But
you.
it's not, because my question is, are you categorically saying that the Chinese government did not have a role in your nomination?
You can check whether it's my donation filing
No,
or
that's not my
reporting.
question. My
Right.
question is, do you have complete and clear information that discounts or challenges or contradicts or shows that the information reported by Global News is wrong in the allegation that the Chinese government, consul, embassy, or any proxies aided in your nomination?
So which news you from?
Do you, pardon?
Which news saw that?
The Globe and Mail.
Okay.
So do you want me to say my question again?
Yeah, you wrap a lot of things in there.
No.
I can tell you. I
it's-
can tell.
What
I
I'm trying
can.
to ask you is whether you know for a fact that they did not aid. I know you're saying you didn't accept any help, and you're saying you
And I
weren't
was
aware
never
of any
offered.
help.
I was never
I
offered.
understand that, but my question is, can you categorically say that they did not help you?
Yes, I can just say that.
Even though
To my knowledge, I
Okay.
was not offered. I was not told. I was not informed. Nor would I accept any help from a foreign country, whether during my nomination or my election campaign.
But CSIS or the Prime Minister's office or anybody else since all this reporting has not told you whether or not, unbeknownst to you, the Chinese embassy, government, or any proxies did in fact aid in your nomination.
I can tell you that to this point, I've never received a phone call from CSIS. I've never made aware that if there is an investigation, whether by CSIS, RCMP, or Elections Canada, pertain to my nomination or my election.
What about the Prime Minister's office?
No.
Prime Minister's office hasn't told you anything about what the facts are that they know, that they've been told?
What do you mean the facts?
Well, we know from documents, or from, sorry, I should say from Global News reporting,
Right.
that security agencies have been aware or alleged
how am
that
I-
they did help in
I
your
got you,
nomination. And so I'm wondering if the Prime
That's
Minister's
the
office
fact that
has
you're talking about.
addressed
Okay.
that.
So let me tell you, I cannot defend myself against a unverified anonymous source.
That's not the answer to my question.
That's
though.
exactly
Did the Prime
what
Minister's
Global
office-
News said. Is they have not verified the
But did the Prime Minister's office-
the allegation.
Did the Prime Minister's office, though, address any of the information with you that Global
No.
report? For example, and
No.
have you asked them? Because they would be able to
No.
correct the record.
No. Like I said, I'm not going to. I cannot define myself against a unverified anonymous source.
But you could
That's
go to
not the same
CSIS, you
thing.
could go to the Prime Minister's office and ask them about our reporting and say, what information can you tell me about what has happened? Have you done that?
I did write a letter to the director of CSIS.
Have they
Asked him-
responded?
No.
And what
They
was that- what did it
respond-
say?
they acknowledged receipt.
They acknowledge. And so the Prime
What
Minister's
did your
office.
letter say? What did you ask of them?
I asked them. I asked them about the latest allegation, and also to confirm if it was a leak from CSIS.
And what about the Prime Minister's office? Have you asked Ms. Telford or Mr. Trudeau or
Nope.
Jody Thomas what
Nope.
they know? Because obviously
Nope.
they're briefed on all of this.
No,
And why not?
because I know the truth. The
But
truth.
how do you know the truth if you haven't been briefed?
I know the truth because I know my campaign. I know the people that work on my campaign. I've worked with them for years, whether it's my own campaign or previous campaigns.
So you're going on
I
faith.
was.
You're going on faith. though.
No, I go on fact. I've been nominated since 2013, provincial capacity, elected. It's the same team. They're my friends. And the reason why, I have leaders come from the Tamil community, from the Persian community, from the Armenian community, from the Italian community. The list go on and on.
So
To come
have
out,
you
no,
asked
let me
them if
finish.
they
Let me
help you?
finish. Let me finish. To come out and support my campaign is because I've been working with them for years and they know me, right? And when you look at the my core team, if anyone comes to my election campaign, they'll notice that yes, I have Chinese Canadians helping out, but they're a very small portion of my campaign. So
Right.
your
But
premises of your question about whether I got aid by the Consul General Office and that was a deciding factor for my,
No, that's not what I
it's-
said. I said any aid. I didn't say whether it was a deciding
Okay,
factor.
sure.
What I'm trying to understand is why it is that you haven't asked the Prime Minister, any of his senior advisors who have the information to clarify for you whether or not you were helped. Because right now you seem to be saying that you're going on an article of faith that you know the people who were on your campaign.
But I know what happened. I know about my campaign.
You said you didn't know. You haven't been briefed.
You're not letting me finish.
It's true.
my answer.
I'll let you finish.
I said I know my team. I know who worked on my team. I know I have faith in them. I know the truth. And also the Prime Minister has been very clear in the public realm that about the outcome of the 19 and 21 campaign. I also heard on PROC from RCMP, from Elections Canada, from CSIS, that interference did not influence the result of the 2019-21 campaign. To me, that's enough.
That's a big difference, though, right? Whether it
Also,
actually,
sorry,
whether
sorry.
it impacted is shouldn't you be concerned whether anybody's
Also-
interfering, whether or not it has a result?
Good question. Also, they said there was no investigation in the 2019 and
The
2021.
RCMP did.
Exactly. And I have not received any phone calls from RCMP, Elections Canada, CSIS.
And why
with regard
haven't you
to my-
asked the Prime Minister's office to clarify this, to clear the air?
Because it's unverified, anonymous allegation. I gotta find out whether it's a leak from CSIS or not. You're making a lot of assumptions.
No, I'm not. They
That's
have
what
all
the
the
Global News
information.
said, is they have not verified the allegation. So it's
But the Prime
unverified.
Minister's office could. That they actually have the
but
information.
Why would I do that? It says unverified, anonymous.
Because you want to
source.
clear the air with your name. Is that not correct?
I think I put out a statement, and I think if you believe me, everything is in that statement.
And so, why haven't you asked your campaign team if they knew about interference from Chinese embassy or proxies or consulate?
How do you know that?
You said you were trusting on faith that you trust them.
I know my campaign team.
Have you asked them if they were aware of any Chinese interference?
Well, the answer is no. There is.
You haven't
there-
asked them?
No, the answer is no. There was no interference.
But did you ask them?
No, I answered the question. I was never offered, nor would I accept.
That's not what
any
I'm
help.
asking you.
That's my
There's
answer.
just some, but you're not answering some of the questions, which
What?
raises more questions.
Okay.
You're saying that you trust on faith your campaign team. And my question is, why wouldn't you ask them?
How do you know I didn't?
Well, that's what
We're
I'm
asking
asking
you.
you, and you're not answering.
Yeah, but I don't know the relevancy of this. I told you, my campaign team.
Well, because as a candidate, many things happen in a campaign that you are not aware of
Right.
because it's a short campaign. There's lots of
Right.
people involved. So I guess I'm curious about what appears to be a lack of curiosity on your part to ask the Prime Minister's office to ask your key players to clear the air.
I've asked people that involved with my campaign, and who I still have contact with, that if they were aware. They said absolutely not.
And what do you make of the Ford government's decision or Vincent Kay's decision to stay outside of caucus while
I can comment
Other
on that.
allegations
I'm
relate
not
to him.
Vincent. I'm not Vincent. I'm not Premier Ford. They made their decision. I can comment.
and why did you decide to stay in the Liberal caucus while this is ongoing?
I've done nothing wrong. I've done nothing wrong. You know, everything about my nomination and election is above board, and they're reported, and they are on public records.
I just want to be clear. The allegations that we had in our story was that there were Chinese consulate helped bring in Chinese seniors to vote for you, and that there were Chinese foreign students here that were coerced by the consulate in Toronto to come and vote for you. Did you see any irregularities at the nomination meeting that would suggest that any of that happened?
So, look, I read that part of the report. My campaign offered transportations to seniors, not just Chinese seniors. And the bus involved in the transportation is properly expensed and reported, and that's on public record. It was directly international. So I really don't know who's international, who's not international. We got a lot of young people coming to my campaign and support me. Throughout my career, I always encourage young people, especially from different diaspora, to come and get involved in the process. So that's all I can say about this. It's not my job to check if they're international students or not international students, right?
How do you move forward from this?
Just keep my head down and work for my constituents. I think the putting the hard work in my writing is very important. That's what I'm elected to do. Again, I'm not going to spend too much energy on anonymous allegations, verified, unverified. If I let that to become a distraction of my work, then I'm not serving my constituents.
Are you getting concerns raised by constituents about the reporting, or are they asking questions of you about what happened?
So I am concerned, two things. One is because of the news story and all the hateful, aggressive comments, death threats coming my way, it does impact constituents in my writing. Because some comments were targeting them. That should stop. Second thing is the whole notion about interference will cast a shadow on the Chinese community, especially Chinese community, when they go to polling next election. Okay, I don't want this to become a suppression on their willingness to participate in the next election. So I'll be spending time working towards that.
One of the things that the National Post reported is that you decided to skip out on 2 votes on declaring actions by the Chinese government against Uyghurs a genocide. Can you explain why you missed those votes but attended other votes around that?
I'm aware of that story. The first vote that I voted with the government position, but then again, the members skip their votes, abstain the votes all the time.
Do you believe it's a genocide?
Hold on. And I wasn't the only one that skipped the vote. And in terms of questions about, I voted a question about whether or not, because I read the story, I was doing it in favor of China or whatnot. Look, I voted to condemn China when they sanctioned one of our vice chair of a standing committee. I voted to include Taiwan, in the WHO. In 2020, I moved the motion in ethics committee to study election interference, domestic and international. And recently, I went to announcement to support extending the pathway to allow more Hong Kong residents to come to Canada, those that are seeking democracy and freedom. So I think my record stands on itself.
Do you believe that the treatment of Uyghurs, in China is a genocide?
I've said, to the Chinese diplomats in my capacity as CCLA co-chair, that I have deep concerns about human rights abuse in China, especially in the Xinjiang region. I call for opportunity for independent Canadian review of that condition. So that's what I've said.
But you don't believe it's a genocide?
That's what I said. I have no doubt there is a severe human rights abuse in the Xinjiang region, and that needs to be looked at independently.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I appreciate
Yeah,
you
no
stopping.
problem.